Boy, I love predictions right before the season, unless those predictions are really terrible.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the AHSA Radio Network. That's me. Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That's him. Want to thank you for making this your first listen every single day, and want to thank you everydayers for joining us every day. And you newbies, welcome to our humble abode. Also, this episode is brought to you by a new sponsor, Ultimate GM. I can't wait to tell you about Ultimate GM, and I'll be doing that here very, very shortly. And we got a lot to talk about. We got Courtney Morgan with a new contract. What does that mean? We got team captains announced. We got practice news. We got all kind of stuff. We got news from around the country. But Jimmy, and I had something else in line to talk about, but CBS came out with their predictions for the SEC. And, you know, being the curious cat I am, I checked them out. And I just assumed it was going to be mostly boilerplate, you know, mostly run of the mill. Hey, Georgia's going to win it. And most of them do have that. In fact, very few deviated from the norm, which is very understandable. I'm not upset at them. One of them did have Texas. Well, actually, two of them, Jerry Palm and David Cobb, had Texas winning it, which by the way, I don't want to happen. I don't want Texas to get in this league and then win the league immediately, because
I hate that.
You think they're unbearable now?
Oh yeah, they'll be yeah, and it would be. I couldn't agree more, but they might win it.
Now, one particular one, most of them had Alabama finishing third in the league, which I get. A couple of them had Alabama finishing fourth, and one had Alabama finishing second. I personally pick Alabama to win the league because, yes, I'm a homer. I also believe in this team. One particular expert, Tom Fornelli, who is usually pretty good.
I've heard of him.
Here are his predictions for the SEC standings. Georgia 1, okay. Tennessee 2, Texas 3, sure. Ole Miss 4, okay. Oklahoma 5, okay. LSU 6, okay. A&M 7, whoa. Alabama 8. 8, Jimmy. And look, I mean, I guess it's sort of stupid to be offended when somebody predicts something like this. But, you know, I would expect it from maybe an Auburn beat writer who just hates Alabama. I'd kind of get it. Or maybe the guy that sort of poked fun at you, we'll talk about in a minute, Kyle on Twitter, who I would expect him to be unreasonable in his predictions for Alabama. I would expect that. Alabama finishing 8th. Let me say this, a couple of things. First of all, I think that is that's crazy. Number 2, I think if that actually happens, the Kalen DeBoer honeymoon will be over like that.
Yeah, it would be the worst honeymoon since, gosh, I needed to have a bad honeymoon analogy.
I'll give you one. A friend of mine, I'll give you one. When a friend of mine was getting married, another friend of mine, or more of a friend of his, was giving the speech at the wedding, and he had been married like 9 months before my friend. And he was like the best man. He got up and said, "All I can say is I hope the first 9 months of your marriage are better than mine." And I said, now that marriage did end, by the way.
That night,
yeah,
that moment.
Anyway,
I think Clark Kent and Lois Lane went on a fake honeymoon in the original Superman movie, the Christopher Reeve Superman.
I think it was the second episode. I think it was the second one when, remember, his glasses went in the fire.
That's it. That was the second one. That was with Zod.
And he pulled it out with his hand and then put them back on. And there were like so many things wrong with that she was like, you can't just put your hand in fire. And if you couldn't just put hot glasses back on your face.
And the fact that the pair of glasses, he takes off his glasses and she's all of a sudden, you look strikingly like Superman.
It is the worst disguise. I mean, I've talked about this. I don't want to get off on a tangent. That's why I've always hated DC. Batman's the only one that anybody can relate to, except he's a billionaire. Like, Superman is too good. You can't beat him. In fact, he's getting new powers all the time. Nobody can beat him. And the only way you can beat him is if you're a trillionaire who has access to a pieces of rock from a planet that's a gazillion light years away.
Yeah, Elon
Meanwhile,
Musk.
that's why I love Spider-Man. He has acne. He has girlfriend problems. He's self-conscious. He's sarcastic. He's a smartass. All those things.
We've all been bitten by spiders too. Every
We've
one
all
of us
been
have been bitten by spiders.
Okay, let's get back on track.
Okay.
So, Tom Fornelli, does he need to be committed or does he need to be studied?
This is what immediately comes to mind for me. First of all, anyone that wants to attack the guy, I think that's great if you want to attack the guy, but I would attack him when the season's over.
Yeah.
Right now, I say
Yeah.
the benefit of the doubt. For right now, give him the benefit of the doubt. For right now, say, that's an interesting take. And then when the season's over and Alabama finishes first or second in the league and is in the college football playoff, then go unleash, on the guy. But this is my take from it in terms of what would be an interesting story here is, let's say Alabama does finish 8th. Why? How did that happen? How would that what would it take? I mean, I know people would say a rash of injuries. Sure.
Well, he's also saying officially, Jimmy, if you ask me, because he has Oklahoma, Tennessee, Georgia, and LSU finishing ahead of us.
Yeah. That'd be like
and I think Missouri. And I think so. He has 5 teams. He's saying, in my opinion, he's saying we either lose all of those or 4 of those.
Yeah. It's 8-4 or worse to finish 8th. So what would have to happen for Alabama to finish? Does this mean that Jalen Milroe is a poor fit in the DeBoer offense? That's not an outrageous take. I mean, that's not crazy. Now, I don't believe it will be true. I think Milroe is going to prove to be an excellent fit with DeBoer and Sheridan, but it's not a crazy take to say he won't. It would take that. It would take the offensive line giving up closer to the 40 sacks they did a year ago and not like the 12 sacks that Washington gave up last year to be closer to that. So the offensive line is bad again. The defense with Saban gone takes tremendous steps back because we went from Saban to Womack. So I just, the way I think it's interesting in terms of, okay, if Alabama finishes 8th, what happened? Why? Because Alabama's personnel to me does not scream 8th in the SEC. Alabama's personnel to me screams first, second, or third in the SEC. But what would it take for Alabama to finish 8th? And again, I would guess it would just start with the idea that Milroe's a poor fit in the offense and Womack is a gigantic step back from Nick Saban on defense. And I don't think those are outrageous takes. I disagree with both, but I don't think those are outrageous.
Not outrageous. But I mean, part of me respects the fact if he really believes this, if he's not just clickbaiting, then I'm like, okay, you're going out. You're not even going out on a limb. You're like on like the bud of a dogwood. You're way the heck out there.
Yeah.
And so be it if you really believe that. I personally don't. I don't think anybody else agrees with you, but you could nail it. Hey, if you remember back in '92, there was a dude out in Arizona who picked Alabama #1 from the start, and they finished #1. And at first, everybody thought he was needed to be studied by a team of professionals, and at the end, he turned out to be a genius. So I guess
he led the parade.
Well,
he was the grand marshal of the national championship parade.
Let's also say this: if Alabama is trending towards an 8th place finish about 3/4 of the way through the season, all I can say is I would call my nearest window company if I'm Kalen DeBoer and say, how do I brick-proof these things? That's my deal.
Yeah,
but
it would be. I think 10-2, which is, I think what I'm settling on is 10-2. But I think 10-2, DeBoer's going to take a lot of heat from some segments of the fan base. I think
10-2, if you make the playoffs, if you give DeBoer heat, you're going to get heat back right here on Locked On Bama. Because if we go 10-2 and make the playoffs, we're going to spit hot fire right on your face.
That's a good year one for us. Now, I would say this with a caveat to that. I think 10-2 making the playoffs would be a great year, but I also think that Alabama, if they're a heavy favorite in round 1 of the playoffs, they need to win at least that game. If you're hosting the 12 seed or you're playing, if Alabama's a 7, 8, 10-point favorite playing at home, you need to win that. But I agree with Luke that in this day and age, win double-digit games, making the playoff, That's a really good year. And I think it's crazy that out of 130 whatever schools, it would be a fantastic year. And at Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, it's like, this is a disaster. That's just kind of silly to me, really.
All right, Jimmy, we got to talk a little bit about some of your predictions really quickly and also go over a few practice notes. As it stands, though, hey, new sponsor, yo. I know everybody's excited about it. They should be. And we're going to talk about them the next time because I put the wrong thing up. And instead, I'm going to put Ibotta up because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm trying really hard.
You're an Ibotta fan.
Dude, I love Ibotta.
Talk me into this. Talk me into this.
I'm going to
Make me a
talk
fan.
There's my Ibotta app. It's on my phone. I'm not kidding. I mean, I got it, and right now I've got $14 cash back, $15.90 cash back already for this particular cycle. My lifetime earnings on Ibotta, and again, this is not me telling y'all lies. I'm telling y'all the truth. My lifetime earnings. Look, I don't know if you can even see it. My lifetime earnings are $1,078.22 from Ibotta. That's just money I've gotten back.
That's American dollars?
That's American dollars.
Pretty good.
And you know, wait a minute, I shouldn't have told you that because I may have to pay tax on that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay. But I bought it. I'm telling you guys, go download it. It doesn't hurt. It's usually stuff you're going to buy anyway.
Yeah, they're paying you to buy stuff.
Exactly. Like when I if I know I'm going to the beach and they say, okay, you got a deal on sunscreen or flip-flops or whatever here, then I'll go there. And yeah, even if the price is like 10 cents higher of a different brand, I might get $1 or $2 back. So it more than pays for itself because it's free. That's the other thing. So go to Ibotta right now. And they're often earning our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Okay. I can't get the $5 anymore, but I don't need it. You saw how much money I got, yo. I'm telling you with Ibotta. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download free Ibotta app and start earning cash back when you use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA. Use code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. You will love it. It's so easy and it's totally free. It's totally free. I'm telling you. So go get it. You'll love it. All right. I do need to also remind everybody about the college football previews that are out. This on our channel. You can go. They put it out there yesterday. College football is back. It's not too late to catch up before the season kicks off. SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12. You can get it all from Locked On stable of college experts, including Jimmy Stein. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Not an expert, per Kyle.
Per Kyle. Yeah, you know what? Let's go there now. Okay, for those who don't know, Jimmy put out what I thought to be some incredibly reasonable predictions of his own on Bama Online, where he is, a moderator, an expert, a panelist, or whatever he is. He's not a journalist.
Team expert, I believe.
Team expert.
My
okay.
title over there.
And Jimmy does this every day. He does an amazing job on BOL. He said awards and all-star honors for this team, this Alabama team. Jalen Milroe, Heisman finalist, first team All-SEC, second team All-American. Again, if you think that's crazy, okay. I mean, maybe you're a big Carson Beck fan.
He missed being a top 5 Heisman finalist by one spot last year. It's not crazy to think he might move up one spot.
And if you are a believer in him and DeBoer's system, and you do believe that Alabama improved at the wide receiver position, which I do, and you do believe we got a better center, why on the earth would you think he's not going to be better? So I think that's fair. Justice Haynes, second team All-SEC, not second team All-American, second team All-SEC. Yes. I find that to be very fair. Jeremy Bernard, second team All-SEC. Ryan Williams, freshman All-American. Well, he's already been named preseason All-American by most everybody. Jimmy's not nuts. Caden Proctor, third team All-SEC.
Third
again,
which is a brand new designation, by the way. SEC hasn't had a third team All-SEC until this year. They had a third team preseason in Dallas at Media Day. So I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that they're going to have a third team AP and coaches All-SEC because there's now 16 teams in the college. So I said third team.
Again, third team is sort of like, I mean, it's like Phil Steele does 4 teams. And by the time he gets to the 4th team, he's like, I got to put somebody in here, And so that's not outlandish. Tyler Booker, Outland finalist, first team All-American, first team All-SEC. Again, not nuts. ESPN has him that way. I think CBS has him that way. Parker Brailsford, third team All-American, first team All-SEC, Remington finalist. He's already been announced on the Remington watch list. He was a freshman All-American last year. He was a freshman center on the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line.
PFF predicted, by the way, that Brailsford would win the Remington yesterday. I just said he'd be a finalist. I didn't even say he'd win it, but PFF says he's going to win it.
All right, and let me go through the rest of these just really quickly. All right, Jaden Roberts, second team All-SEC. I think that's too low, Jimmy. Tim Keenan, third team All-SEC. LT Overton, second team All-SEC. Based on practice reports, that is not nuts. Deontay Lawson, second team All-American, first team All-SEC, Butkus finalist. Jahad Campbell, second team All-SEC. Bottom line, Graham Nicholson, third team All-American, first team All-SEC, Lou Groza finalist. You don't even have him winning the Lou Groza. They didn't win it last year.
Correct.
Neelan Hibbets, Manley Award winner, which I assume is for the long snapper.
Best long snapper in the country. Maybe I went overboard there, but I don't think so.
Oh gosh, Jimmy,
he's on the watch list. He was a finalist last year. He was in the running last year, and he's returning. So it's not crazy.
All right, and then
I do have Burnett. I do have Burnett winning the Ray Guy,
which again is not nuts. It's not nuts.
He was a semifinalist last year.
So, and then you had Jahad Campbell, Malachi Moore, Keon Sabb, Damani Jackson, Xavier Brown, all either freshman All-American or like third team, second team All-SEC kind of stuff. Not nuts. Again, it's hard to find 3 teams of All-SEC caliber folks. So now Kyle at All Barn, who look, I get it. He's all Auburn and be a homer. We're homers. I get that. That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
But he said Alabama's beat writer, meaning you, thinks Alabama is going to have their best season ever in DeBoer's first season. This isn't Alabama's best season.
No, it's not.
You don't have that many award winners. You have some finalists, which Alabama has had a lot of. You have some third team. If you take out the third team All-SEC guys, which is a new designation, as you say, this is beyond reasonable, if you ask me. He said that's 19 different players winning All-SEC or All-American honors. Be serious, buddy. First of all, you're not his buddy. I think that's clear. Secondly,
I was serious.
And you were serious. And I just, again, I was on a radio show. I'm on a radio show every Wednesday.
It's only 19 players because I included the kicker, the punter, and the long snapper.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, I don't know. Well, it's 19 different players. Yeah.
Is it?
Again, Malachi Moore, first team All-SEC. That's nuts.
He's been All-SEC in the past.
He's preseason All-SEC on every other outlet. Why is this nuts?
I think my reaches were things like Keon Sabb and Damani Jackson, but I put them as third team All-SEC.
And again, if that designation is not there, you remove Sabb, you remove Damani Jackson, you remove
Caden Proctor,
Tim Keenan. You remove Caden Proctor. Yeah, you take out 4 dudes right there.
Yeah, just by removing the brand new designation. And Josh from College Football Nerds defending me, like Luke is here, pointed out that Alabama's actually had this many all-star award winners in the past with even out a third team. Even first and second team alone, Alabama's had this many before. It's not unusual for Alabama to have that many at all. And to me, the biggest thing was he said, which was just flat out wrong, regardless of taking a shot at me going, anybody can say, Jimmy, that's just too many. You're being a homer. Okay, that's fair. But what's not fair is he said this guy's predicting the greatest season of all time. I'm actually predicting Alabama to finish 10-2 and not even win the SEC. I'm getting heat from you guys listening to the show right now going, that's a terrible season. And why is an Alabama fan saying 10-2 and not winning the SEC? So it's like, well, for Alabama fans, I'm not predicting good enough. For Auburn fans, they're saying it's too high. Nobody,
well, not only that.
Nobody likes me but the Vandy guys.
I'm predicting Alabama to win the SEC.
You are.
And here's the other thing. It's fine if you want to say we're morons, but we're morons for different reasons. We're not morons for this stuff. These are yesterday, Jimmy, I'll tell you something. I was going to say I go on a Montgomery radio station with Doug Amos every Wednesday about 12:20. And it's a Locked On segment that you've been on there. You've substituted for me before. And Zach Blackerby goes to Locked On Auburn, and then I go. And the Alabama folks kill Zach Blackerby, and the Auburn folks kill me. And I said something to the effect, I went on my rant about how, in-state recruiting isn't as big a deal as it used to be. And I said, I say that acknowledging Auburn's class is awesome. And if you ask, would I love to have Derek Smith in my class? You're darn right. Would I love to have Cam Coleman in my class from last year? You're dang right I would. All those things. But Auburn fans were, and then I made the comment, hey, I'm glad Alabama's back in Mississippi. They're like, oh, you love Mississippi, but you don't love Alabama players. I said, no, all I'm saying is Alabama hasn't had a presence in Mississippi, and they do now. They still have a presence in Alabama. They're the presence in Alabama. But
I would say Ryan Williams was a pretty good pickup from Alabama.
He's a pretty good pickup from Alabama. But
what's happened in the past 6
again,
months?
I understand that the rivalry, that Auburn people are going to hate what you and I say, and Bama people are going to hate what Zach Blackerby says. I get that. But when we do make an effort to be reasonable, I guess we ask very politely, be a little reasonable back.
If an Auburn beat writer predicted Auburn to finish 9-3 this year, I would disagree entirely, but I wouldn't attack the Auburn because I don't think that's unreasonable.
Let me say this. I'm going to cut you off.
9-3.
I
think they're going to finish 7-5.
I've dominated this segment. I'm sorry. But Zach Blackerby was on the college football preview, and I encourage everybody to go check it out. He was on there with the Florida guy, the Arkansas guy, I think the Oklahoma guy, and one other guy. I can't remember. Maybe Vandy or something. And they asked, okay, the host, Chris Gordy from Locked On SEC, said, who's going to be the surprise team? And Zach Blackerby said, I think it's going to be Auburn, and I think they're going to go 8-4. And the rest of the panel rolled their eyes. And, I thought to myself,
that's not unreasonable.
That's not crazy. In fact, if I'm predicting Auburn's season, I predict 8-4 as well.
Wow.
In fact,
you got 8-4.
I got 8-4 for Auburn, 100%. And nobody hates that more than I do. I enjoy their losing seasons.
I'm saying 7-5. So anybody it's like, how could I criticize 8-4 when I'm saying 7-5? It's just one game. It's one bounce of the ball.
But I think Auburn's going to be. I'll even go a step further. And I hate saying this. I think Auburn's going to be closer to going to be more likely 9-3 than 7-5. Really? I truly 100% believe that. But anyway, so if anybody, I want to give a shout out to one guy that really defended you with Kyle. That's Seymour T at Richard Pound 699. Thank you, Seymour T. He says, leave Jimmy Stein out of your mouth, fat boy, to Kyle. So I kind of dig it. All right, listen, we got
thank you, Seymour.
Thank you, Seymour. We hope to see more of you. All right, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about practice, and we're going to talk about team captains. Now I get to tell you about Ultimate GM. Oh man, I'm so happy we got these guys on board. Hey, Locked On Bama fans, I'm telling you, I want to take a moment and give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do, and I do love it. Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of Alabama or Ohio State or anybody that you love? Go check them out. From recruiting players and hiring coach staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you will control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. You will love this thing. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, by the way. Has no ads and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go and as you want to, and whenever you want to.
It's free and it has no ads?
No ads, man.
And it's free.
Except this one. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Bama fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, Locked On CFB, inside the game store and receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com, ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up in the app stores. That's the easiest thing to do. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Okay, a few practice notes out there. First of all, everybody appears to be back healthy. That's super positive. I mean, healthy is very relative when you've been,
I know of no
climbing
one
into
other than
300-pound
Jalen
games.
Hale. I know of no one other than Jalen Hale that's definitely going to miss game one. I don't know of anyone else. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't anybody. I'm just saying I don't know of anyone that's going to miss game one other than Jalen Hale, who was hurt this spring.
The running back room looking good again. Only Jam Miller has been in that black jersey. Justice Haynes, therefore, taking all the Jimmy Stein's prediction for Heisman Trophy and,
Exactly.
and also NFL MVP.
First pick in the draft.
First pick in the draft, Justice Haynes. Zabian Brown, no club on his hand anymore. That's a super positive. No sling on Daniel Hill anymore. Everybody was a little worried about that. That's very positive. I thought the the wide receiver grouping was kind of interesting the other day. It had Jaron Hamilton in there as a one. Now, maybe that meant nothing. Maybe he was just in that particular group. It didn't signify anything, but I just found it interesting.
Oh yeah, he's been around the ones even in the spring. I'm sort of in the thing where I'm not expecting him to be a top 6 receiver on this team, one of the first 6 guys. I'm not expecting him to be, but I'm not going to be shocked if he is because he's often with the first team. I mean, his nickname is Turbo, which is a great nickname for a wide receiver that's 200 pounds. Like he's like 6'2",
All right.
200. And
You have just convinced me Turbo Rogers will be decommitting. We're not going to have to do Turbo.
That is bad. That's bad luck, I think.
It's bad.
Have 2 turbos.
If you have 2 turbos, is it a double negative or double positive? Doesn't matter.
Hey, you're going to see Turbo tomorrow night.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I am going to see Turbo tomorrow night. Can't wait to give a report on. Hoping to get to talk to him if I get there early enough, and if they let me. I don't know that they will. So the other thing we wanted to mention were the team captains. And Jimmy, I think these were all no-brainers. And this is kind of new. We're doing this before the season. And I don't know if this is something we're going to continue to do. I'm sort of down with it if we do.
I think it's a DeBoer thing to name the captains before the season.
I like it. I do like it. And I've always wondered why we didn't do that before.
Yeah, I think I like this way, to be honest, because it just makes more sense, because in the pros, those captains often wear that C designation on their jersey. If you're naming people captains when the season's over, there's never a time that anyone on the field is wearing the C. And I'm not saying these guys should wear a C. I'm just bringing it up as most teams name their captains before the season. So I like it before. Where I'm real curious, Luke, is does this mean, and I don't really care too much, but does this mean that at every coin flip, it's always going to be Jalen Milroe, Tyler Booker, Deontay Lawson, Malachi Moore? Is it those 4 for every coin flip, or are we going to mix up who goes out for the flip? So I don't know the answer to that, and that's I find that curious because it's a nice thing for every senior to get an opportunity to go out to midfield. So I wouldn't be crazy about robbing, the Robbie Ouse and the Tim Smiths from going out to midfield and representing the team's captain that day.
That's fair. And then finally, Courtney Morgan re-ups with Alabama despite getting offered more money from USC. I will say this: the first thing that came to mind was if you're getting $1 million at USC or $850 in Tuscaloosa, I feel like the $850 does turn out to be more by the time you add in cost of living. So I'm kind of feel like, everybody was talking about how he turned down more money. I don't care that he turned down more money. I'm just glad that he's back because I love me some Courtney Morgan, and I think he's doing a hell of a job.
Yeah, I'm about to write a column on this right now. BOL. It's just the thing I'm going to do once the recording's over. I've been putting some thoughts together about writing a column based on this. A couple of different things. In the NFL, sometimes the head coach is also the general manager. And I don't know how often that's worked. I mean, I think to some extent it's worked for some people at some time, but it seems like the most successful franchises recently have split the job into 2 different things. And this is what Alabama's doing, where Kalen DeBoer is the head coach, but Courtney Morgan's sort of, he's in charge of the roster or he manages the roster. And the funny thing is, I don't know that Nick Saban ever would have had a general manager. If Nick Saban had stayed, even in this new era, I don't think you'd have had a general manager. He's the most he's the guy that wants to be head coach and GM. He's the most hands-on guy ever. DeBoer is a delegator. I mean, this is the maybe the biggest difference between Saban and DeBoer is right there. Saban wanted to do everything, be defensive coordinator, be the general manager, be the head coach, be the CEO, be the cornerback coach at practice, which he was. Saban was this whirling dervish of activity because he had his hands in everything. DeBoer, like, oh, I hired a cornerback coach, I hired a GM, and he literally is the CEO only and delegates everything. And see how, Nick Saban's the greatest to ever do it. But to me, it's just fascinating about how different these two are when it comes to that. But I'm not saying one is better than the other. I mean, let's see.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. I hope everybody has a great day, except you, Kyle. And until then, roll tide.
Roll Tide.